Welcome, everyone, to The Deep Dive. Today we're tackling something, well, pretty mind-bending, a really fascinating psychological paradox. What if the thing you're most afraid of, that big fear, what if it's already happened? And those intense anxieties, that dread you might feel sometimes, what if it isn't about some future collapse? What if it's actually an echo, like a really deep echo of a catastrophe from way back, something you never consciously experienced?
It really turns our usual understanding of fear on its head, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. For this exploration, we're calling it the Lee or Super Fun Learning Hour.
Bro.
This is, believe it or not, the 7th deep dive in our ongoing seminar series, Looking into the Unconscious.
We've certainly been covering some ground.
We have, peeling back layers, looking at those hidden currents inside us. And today, well, we're diving into a concept that's, let's say, challenging, but also incredibly illuminating. We're going to be guided by a really pivotal piece of work. Our mission today is to really get into the work of Donald Winnicott, specifically his 1963 paper, The Fear of Breakdown. We'll walk you through his main ideas, especially this revolutionary thought, that the fear of a psychological breakdown is actually the fear of a breakdown that's already occurred.
But crucially, one that was never really experienced or integrated by the person at the time. And what's so striking, I think, is that Winnicott isn't just, giving us another theory about anxiety. He's completely reframing our relationship to it. He's pushing us to think that just because we don't consciously remember a trauma doesn't mean it didn't happen. Actually, quite the opposite.
Right. The lack of memory is almost the point.
Exactly. And our aim here is to make this complex psychoanalytic idea, thoughtful, but also accessible. We want to create some space for reflection, thinking about how the analytic setting, the therapy room, can become this vital space where this unexperienced catastrophe, as he calls it, can finally be found, lived through, and importantly, given meaning.
Yeah, transforming that pervasive fear into something remembered, something processed. That sounds like a really profound shift. So get ready to maybe rethink how you understand anxiety, resilience, maybe even the very foundations of who you are. This should be quite a journey.
Okay, let's try and unpack this. We really have to start with the most striking claim from Winnicott's paper. He says the fear of breakdown isn't a premonition. It's not about something bad that will happen down the line.
Not like seeing storm clouds gathering? No.
Exactly. Instead, and this is the really counterintuitive bit, it's the fear of a breakdown that has already happened, way back in the person's past, like an echo from a time before conscious memory even existed.
What's so insightful is how he puts it. He talks about this deep kind of existential dread, a dread of something that is meaning it exists right now, unconsciously, inside the person, but hasn't been, in the sense that it wasn't consciously experienced or remembered when it actually happened.
Okay, so it is, but hasn't been.
That's true.
It is. He suggests this original breakdown happened incredibly early in development. We're talking possibly the first few months of life. This is before the infant's ego, their sense of self, was integrated or strong enough to consciously register the trauma.
So it happened, but there was no one there yet to experience it, in a way.
Precisely. It wasn't experienced at the time. So the fear we see later isn't about a future event. It's the fear of the possibility of finally, in the present, experiencing that original unintegrated state of breakdown. It gets held in what Winnicott later called the unthought known.
The unthought known. That's such a fascinating phrase. Can you unpack that a little? It sounds almost like a hidden knowledge.
Yeah, it really does. The unthought known is basically a truth that exists within us, a profound reality, but it stays completely outside our conscious awareness. It shapes us, influences us deeply, but we don't know why. Like a feeling that keeps coming up, but you just can't trace where it started. It's knowledge formed through experience, but the experience happened before the mental machinery was there to consciously think about it or remember it in words. It's known implicitly, maybe in the body, in the psyche, but not explicitly, not in a story we can tell ourselves.
That's powerful. It makes me think of the phantom limb phenomenon.
Yes. Good analogy.
Right. Someone loses a limb, but they still feel pain or sensation where the limb used to be because the original loss happened, but the brain hasn't fully processed its absence. The nerves are still firing, kind of creating this ghost feeling. So Winnicott seems to be saying this fear, this breakdown fear, is like the phantom pain of an original psychic trauma, an early catastrophic failure or loss that wasn't felt consciously when it happened, but its effects keep echoing.
Exactly. Influencing our present as this pervasive fear of falling apart. It's a feeling without a memory attached.
An echo without the original sound almost. Like
Yeah.
the psyche is braced for an impact that's already occurred, but it doesn't remember the collision itself.
So, okay, if it's not about the future, but something from the deep past, what exactly is this breakdown Winnicott is talking about? It sounds like it must be more than just, a bad panic attack or feeling depressed. It feels much deeper, more fundamental.
You're absolutely right. It's much more fundamental. This breakdown isn't just psychological distress as we commonly think of it. It's not even typical neurosis or psychosis. Winnicott calls it a state of primitive agony or unthinkable anxiety.
Unthinkable anxiety.
Yeah, these are experiences so profoundly disruptive to the emerging self, the infant self, that they literally cannot be contained or processed or even registered by that developing psyche. They form the hidden foundation, the bedrock beneath many later psychological issues, shaping the whole structure.
So these are like existential threats to the self actually forming. Exactly. Moments where the self faced maybe non-existence or total fragmentation before it even had a chance to become cohesive. And Winnicott actually outlines 5 specific types of this unthinkable agony. Understanding these is really key to grasping the depth of this early trauma.
Okay.
And these aren't just, abstract ideas. They connect directly to those raw, pre-verbal experiences that leave these invisible marks.
Right, the things that might fuel, say, a recurring nightmare or that sudden dread you feel for no apparent reason.
Precisely. So the first one he talks about is the fear of returning to an unintegrated state. Think about a newborn. They don't arrive with a unified sense of self, right? Experiences are fragmented hunger, then fullness, warmth, then cold.
Just moments disconnected.
Right. And the job of the early environment, the caregiver, is to reliably meet those needs, to help the infant start linking these bits together, to build a sense of continuity, a feeling of I am. When that fails profoundly, the infant is left exposed to moments where they just can't hold themselves together. Parts feel scattered, disconnected.
So it's not like an adult losing it, it's experiencing something from before there was a self to lose.
Exactly. It's the terrifying feeling of re-experiencing a state that happened before any stable ego integration. It's like building a tower without a solid base.
Yeah.
Every so often, you get that terrifying feeling it could all just scatter. Internal chaos, no central you.
It sounds horrifying.
It is. The horror of falling back into total psychic disarray. This might show up in adulthood as a deep fear of mental disorganization, feeling scattered, overwhelmed easily, or that sense of fragmentation under stress.
Okay, that's one. What's the second?
The second is the sensation of falling forever.
Falling forever.
Yeah. This links directly to a failure in the early maternal holding. Not just physical holding, but psychological holding too. That sense of secure containment, of being reliably there. When that basic holding is really lacking or unpredictable, the infant experiences this terrifying sensation of an endless fall. No bottom, no support, utter helplessness and a void.
So it's a psychic falling, not just physical.
Absolutely. It's the internal experience of having no secure base, no ground beneath you. In adult life, this might look like a constant craving for external validation, a profound fear of abandonment.
Or maybe being terrified of taking risks
Yeah,
because there's no sense of a safety net.
exactly. Or just a pervasive feeling of instability, like the floor could drop out from under you at any second.
Okay, and the third one.
The third is the fear of disintegration. This is related to the unintegrated state, but it emphasizes the fear of the self literally falling apart, losing cohesion.
Like shattering.
Kind of. It happens when the early environment didn't provide the support needed for the infant's ego to integrate all those different experiences into a unified whole. The outside world didn't help organize the inside world. Imagine a kaleidoscope where the pieces just keep shifting, never settling into a pattern. That's the internal feeling the self can't cohere, can't hold its boundaries, feels like it might just scatter.
So maybe struggling with identity, feeling like a chameleon.
That could be a milder form, yes. Or in more intense ways, it could be feeling depersonalized, like you're not real or the world isn't real. That feeling of dissolving.
Wow. Okay, number 4.
Number 4 is no relationship to the body. This one is quite disturbing, and maybe more common than we think in subtle ways. It's a profound sense of alienation from your own physical self, feeling detached from your body, like it doesn't belong to you, or it's foreign, maybe even threatening.
Not just feeling clumsy, but actually disconnected.
Deeply disconnected, a loss of the embodied self. And that's fundamental for feeling real, for having a stable sense of me. If the infant's early experiences of being held, touched, cared for, don't help integrate mind and body, the body can feel alien.
How might that show up later?
Depersonalization again, feeling like you're watching your body from the outside. Or maybe chronic physical symptoms that don't seem to have a clear medical cause, a sense of being out of body.
Okay. And the last one, you said it was maybe the most terrifying.
Yes, the fifth is the loss of self-existence or annihilation.
Annihilation.
This isn't just fear of dying. It's the raw, pre-verbal terror of being erased before you even fully existed, utterly ceasing to be, wiped out.
Before you even had a self to lose.
Exactly. It precedes a stable self, precedes relating to others. It's a direct threat to being itself. Think about an infant totally dependent. If basic needs warmth, food, comfort aren't met reliably, the experience isn't just discomfort. It can feel like a momentary cessation of existence.
Like the world and you with it just blinks out for a second.
Sort of. Imagine crying for food and no one comes. For that infant in that moment, the world, their nascent self, might feel like it ceases to exist. These aren't just bad moments, they're like micro-annihilations. They leave this profound, unremembered terror of non-existence, which might later look like crippling self-doubt, feeling not good enough, or needing to constantly do something to feel like you exist.
Okay, listening to you describe these primitive agonies, the depth of that early pain is staggering. How does that translate into the anxieties we feel today, the ones that seem to come out of nowhere? Because these aren't just abstract ideas, are they?
No, absolutely not. They're the root system. These primitive agonies directly connect to those often baffling anxieties people experience daily. Anxieties that feel disproportionate, that don't make rational sense. These early unexperienced terrors become the hidden blueprints for our adult defenses.
So our coping mechanisms, even our personalities, might be built around avoiding these feelings.
Very often, yes. They shape our psychological structures, driving us into patterns of behavior, relationships, ways of seeing ourselves, all unconsciously designed to avoid re-experiencing those terrifying states. These deep fears are the silent architects of how we defend ourselves. For instance, someone who carries that unexperienced terror of falling forever, they might develop an intense need for control, meticulously planning everything to avoid any hint of uncertainty or free fall.
Right, or someone with that annihilation fear.
Might constantly seek external validation. Their sense of existing might feel totally dependent on others' approval. It's all about keeping that original breakdown buried and unfelt. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, these agonies, these unthinkable anxieties, they stem fundamentally from failures in what Winnicott called the good enough mothering environment.
Ah, the good enough mother. Not perfect, but reliable enough.
Exactly. During that critical time of absolute dependence, in the very beginning, the infant's ego isn't separate. It relies entirely on the mother's or caregiver's ego support. Being good enough means consistently, reliably adapting to the infant's needs, feeding, holding, comforting, mirroring their feelings. It's this reliable adaptation that lets the infant start to be, to integrate experiences, to build a sense of self.
And when that doesn't happen reliably,
When that provision is lacking, or erratic, or just not sensitive enough to how utterly dependent the infant is, then the infant is exposed to these unthinkable agonies. They face overwhelming disorganization, falling, annihilation, but without the capacity yet to process or contain it. The trauma happens, the breakdown occurs.
but the equipment to experience it consciously isn't online yet.
Exactly. It's an event without an observer, a wound without a conscious witness. The caregiver's failure to adapt creates these moments of overwhelming dread that get absorbed but not remembered.
So just to make sure I'm getting this, the environment fails to hold the infant together, shield them from these existential threats. And because the infant's ego is so fragile, there's no way to process it, make a memory, tell a story about it. It just is. That feels like such a heavy burden for something so small.
It's a key distinction, yes. The environment fails and the infant effectively breaks down in that moment. But because the ego isn't developed enough to register it, make sense of it, place it in time and space, a narrative memory can't form.
It's like an implicit memory,
Yeah.
a felt sense.
Precisely. An unthought known, like a computer glitch that causes problems later, but the initial error log is missing. And Winnicott is clear. This isn't about blaming parents. It's about understanding a profound developmental reality. Infants need their environment to make reality bearable and comprehensible. When that fails, the trauma is absorbed but unremembered consciously.
Okay, so then how does a person cope? If you can't remember this foundational trauma, how do you live with it? It sounds like a ghost in the machine always running in the background.
It is, in a way, and this is where the cleverness, you might say, of the unconscious comes in. The ego develops very intricate defenses against ever experiencing these original breakdowns.
Defenses against the experience itself.
Yes, the very fear of breakdown that an adult feels later. Winnicott sees that as the ego's sophisticated, maybe cunning, way to avoid remembering or confronting the original event directly.
Like a diversion tactic.
Exactly. It's a psychological sleight of hand. It deflects something that was into something that might be, projecting the fear into the future as an impending threat, even though its roots are deep in the past.
It's easier to fear what might happen than to face what did happen but can't be processed.
The unconscious often prefers that, yes. And here's the absolute core insight of Winnicott's paper. It's really profound. The existence of the fear itself is the proof that the original breakdown was not experienced when it happened.
Okay, say that again. The fear proves it wasn't experienced.
Yes, because if it had been consciously experienced, it would be a memory, maybe a terrible, traumatic memory. But a memory nonetheless, a past event. It wouldn't show up as this persistent, vague, existential dread about a future catastrophe.
Ah, I see.
So the fear is the only way the person recalls or acknowledges that something catastrophic did happen. It's the symptom pointing to the unremembered wound. It's the signal that something vital was shattered or lost when there was no conscious self to register it. The fear is the memory, just in a distorted, projected form.
Okay, so if this breakdown can't be remembered in the usual way, how on earth do you approach it in therapy? It seems almost impossible to heal something that's perpetually out of reach, something from before memory. What does this mean for therapy?
That is the monumental challenge, and it's where Winnicott's approach and the power of the analytic relationship really comes in. The main goal of Winnicottian analysis isn't to dig up a forgotten memory, because there isn't one like that to find. Instead, the aim is to create a unique environment, a therapeutic setting that allows the patient to finally find and crucially experience this original unexperienced breakdown.
Experience it now, in the therapy room.
Yes, but within the safety and the controlled boundaries of the analytic relationship, it's about creating the conditions for a new experience, an experience of something that should have happened differently in the past, namely, the experience of a breakdown being contained and survived by another person.
How does that happen? How is it brought into the present?
Through transference. The fear of breakdown isn't just talked about intellectually. It gets brought alive, right there, in the present, in the relationship with the analyst. The patient doesn't just recall the past, they show it. They reenact it. They feel it in relation to the analyst.
So the analyst becomes a stand-in for that early environment.
In a sense, yes. A surrogate for the environment that originally failed. All those primitive fears, falling, disintegration, annihilation, get projected onto and re-experienced with the analyst. The analyst's office becomes the stage where this unexperienced drama can finally play out. The patient brings the unthought known to life through their actions, feelings, dreams, projections.
Like maybe repeatedly testing the analyst's patience, or getting intensely anxious if the analyst is a minute late.
Exactly like that. Unconsciously reenacting scenarios where they felt the original caregiver was unreliable or couldn't tolerate their needs or abandoned them emotionally. And for this re-experiencing to be therapeutic, the analyst absolutely must provide that consistent, reliable holding environment that was missing back then.
Okay, holding environment. What does that actually involve? It's more than just listening kindly, right?
Oh, much more. It demands unwavering reliability, consistency, a sustained empathy. A presence that can tolerate the patient's deepest anxieties and regressions without collapsing or hitting back. It means being reliably there, physically and emotionally, session after session, often for years, offering a continuity of being the infant never had.
So respecting boundaries, being on time, creating safety.
Yes, creating a space where the patient can feel truly contained, maybe for the first time ever. And this reliable holding allows the patient to do something remarkable, to regress, not in a dangerous way, but therapeutically. They can regress to a state of dependence similar to infancy, where those primitive agonies can finally surface without causing an actual collapse.
Because this time, someone is there to hold it.
Precisely. It's only within this incredibly secure frame that the unexperienced can become experienceable. They can dare to feel the terror of falling, the threat of disintegration, knowing, perhaps for the first time, there's an external person, the analyst, who won't let them fall apart, who won't disintegrate alongside them. It's like a second chance at that foundational experience.
Wow. That sounds incredibly demanding for the analyst, though. Taking on the role of the original caregiver, absorbing all that past failure, that raw terror. It's not just listening. It's being a container, a target even. How does an analyst manage that?
It is incredibly demanding. You've hit on a critical point. And this leads us to another of Winnicott's vital, maybe even radical concepts, the survival of the object.
Survival of the object, meaning the analyst has to survive.
Yes. The patient, unconsciously, often with intense primitive aggression, will attempt to destroy the analyst.
Destroy them, not literally, surely.
No, not literally. It's psychological destruction. Through their aggression, their demands, projecting those primitive anxieties, maybe rage, trying to control or dismiss the analyst. Constantly testing the analyst's boundaries, their ability to withstand intense emotional pressure. They might lash out, push limits, withdraw into silence, trying to make the analyst disappear emotionally or feel as helpless as they once did.
Unconsciously trying to confirm their worst fear, that relationships inevitably fail or get destroyed.
Exactly. Reenacting those moments when their own needs or impulses overwhelm the original caregiver, leading to that early breakdown. They push and push, trying to prove that no one can withstand them. And the crucial outcome here is the analyst's capacity to survive these attacks.
To just take it.
Not just take it passively, to survive without retaliating, without withdrawing emotionally, without breaking down themselves, and without abandoning the patient because it gets too difficult. Survival here is active. Holding steady, staying present, tolerating the full force of the patient's unconscious terror and aggression. It requires immense resilience from the analyst.
Maintaining their own boundaries while staying connected.
Yes, they have to withstand the patient's attempts to make them fail, just like the original environment failed. And the implication for the patient is, well, it's profound. If the analyst survives, stays intact, present, reliable, despite everything the patient throws at them, it allows the patient to believe, maybe truly for the first time, that there's an external person, an external object that can withstand their deepest, most destructive parts.
That must be incredibly transformative.
Utterly. It lets the patient integrate their own aggression as part of a healthy self that can relate to others without destroying them. They learn through direct experience, my anger, my neediness, it doesn't shatter the world or the people I rely on.
I can be all of myself, even the difficult parts, and still be held.
That's the core message they internalize. It frees them from those rigid defenses and allows for genuine connection. But conversely, if the analyst fails to survive, if they get angry, withdraw, get overwhelmed, end the therapy abruptly because of this primitive material, it tragically confirms the patient's deepest unremembered fear, the fear of a destroyed or non-surviving object. It reinforces the original breakdown.
It proves their fear right. See, no one can handle me. Relationships are dangerous.
Exactly, which can be incredibly damaging, potentially leaving them worse off, solidifying that inner conviction.
Okay, so if I'm hearing you right, the ultimate goal of all this incredibly intense work, it's to make that unexperienced past present, but crucially, to make it bearable this time, so it can finally be processed and integrated, bringing that ghost out of the shadows so it can finally be seen and understood for what it is.
That's a perfect way to put it. Yes, that's the heart of the therapeutic breakthrough Winnicott is describing. You allow the reenactment of the original environmental failure, those moments of terror, falling, disintegration, but this time the analyst survives it. So the patient finally experiences the breakdown, but in a context where it can be survived. It transforms that terrifying, vague fear into a specific, remembered, and ultimately manageable experience.
Not changing the past, but allowing it to finally unfold in the present in a way that can be integrated.
Exactly. The terror is lived through, but with a reliable other holding it. This process shifts the fear of breakdown from that haunting future dread to a relived, understood, and therefore overcome past event. It turns the unthought known into a thought known.
Moving it from the unconscious into conscious awareness.
Right. Where it can be worked through, grieved, integrated. This allows for real psychological integration, the different parts of the self coming together. It enables growth and a sense of self-cohesion that just wasn't possible before.
It's like rewriting the earliest chapters of your psychic story, laying a new foundation.
A much more robust and resilient foundation. And this insight from Winnicott, it really highlights how deeply our earliest, often nonverbal experiences shape us, our anxieties, our relationships, our resilience. It underlines the incredible power of consistent, reliable relationships in therapy, but also outside it to help us integrate those fragmented parts and heal deeply.
Sometimes the most healing thing isn't avoiding the past, but finally letting it happen in a way that can be held.
Precisely. For you, the listener, maybe think about it this way. Perhaps that recurring feeling of imposter syndrome isn't just about fearing future failure. Maybe it's an echo of a time you weren't seen, weren't affirmed, and felt your very existence was shaky.
We have certainly taken a deep dive today into Donald Winnicott's really revolutionary paper, The Fear of Breakdown. His core idea challenges us, doesn't it? To think that our deepest fears of falling apart might not be about the future, but echoes of something that already happened, unexperienced, way back in our earliest moments.
Hmm.
And the unique space of analysis, with that reliable holding environment and the analyst's survival, offers a chance to finally meet, experience, and integrate those primitive agonies.
Turning the unthought known into a foundation for a stronger, more integrated self.
As you listening reflect on this, maybe consider how Winnicott's ideas resonate with you. Do they shed light on any persistent anxieties you experience? Or think about how crucial those reliable, unwavering, holding relationships are, not just in therapy, but everywhere in our lives. Who are the people, or what are the spaces that have truly held you when you felt you were falling apart? That allows you to survive something that felt unsurvivable.
And maybe a final thought to mull over. If this fear of breakdown is, as Winnicott suggests, a kind of distorted memory of a past catastrophe, what other unconscious anxieties might be holding similar unexperienced truths about our earliest selves? And maybe more broadly, how can we as individuals, in our families or communities, create more spaces where these unexperienced truths can finally be found, lived through safely, and given meaning? Fostering, perhaps, deeper resilience and more genuine connection in the world around us.